So, hi everyone. My name is Bailey Lamont. I am the vice chair of Pirate Parties International, and I am here talking with Mikuláš Peksa, who is the number 3 candidate on the EU election list for the Czech Pirate Party. Hi, Mikuláš.
Hello, Bailey. Hello, everyone.
So how about we start, for the people out there, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your experience?
Well, I was a quite normal guy who studied physics in the Czech Republic, in Prague. After some time, I moved to Germany, worked and studied there. And in that time, I met German pirates and started to be person exchange experience between Czech and German pirate party. And after some time, I became head of the international coordination and subsequently board member for the Czech Pirate Party. That was at the time before we went to the Czech Parliament. We were quite new party, and people were looking forward to us. What can we do? And well, it happened that we were elected, and I became parliament member. After it was quite surprising. You know, like 1 month you are at about 3% in the opinion poll, and the another month you are in the parliament. So that happened like 2 years ago, and since that time I'm trying to do my best to protect net neutrality and freedom of the internet in the Czech Republic.
That's excellent. So the Czech Pirate Party has had a lot of success at the national level and the local levels as well, from what I understand. Do you know, now the last polls that I saw online, as far as like the numbers at this point, the chance that you guys have getting into Parliament and stuff, wasn't it 21%? I think that's the last number. What are you guys looking at now, do you think?
Well, it's really hard to say. I can't promise you it will be really 21, as like these opinion polls are a little bit magic. I would not really call it science, but I think like 18-19% right now are, let's say, realistic, which I expect from if there would be an election tomorrow.
Very cool. So why do you want to work as a member of the European Parliament, and what are you looking forward to in that job?
Well, I always considered the European Parliament to be actually the most important one from the point of view of party politics. Because if you look what we are interested in, the European Parliament is the one which actually decides. The copyright directive was decided there. Also, ongoing discussion on the removing of terrorist content online is also happening there. So whatever happens, it usually is decided there, and it affects our life. And this is not only for like Czechia; it's worldwide. Like for example, you probably know that the copyright was the time of copyright protection was increased from 50 years to 70 years after the death of the author. This was originally a European law. However, after some time, it was transferred through CETA agreement also to Canadian law, and subsequently to NAFTA, it turned into the US. So whatever is decided in the European Parliament, it really affects people's life globally.
Definitely. That's definitely true. I know that with Canadian law, for example, we were highly influenced by what happens in Europe, including on digital rights issues and stuff like that. So obviously we have our core pirate issues, right? But generally speaking, what's the main area of government policies that you feel that the EU needs to address? And, you know, I guess what would your main focus be should you get elected?
Well, it's a long story. The EU is kind of like intergovernmental organization. That means that a lot of stuff is decided in favor of those who are in charge of the national governments. Quite often happens that the national leaders, like I would say Babiš in Czechia, Orban in Hungary, Dragnea in Romania, they use the EU for their own business interests. That's actually what happens, that they use the money from the EU to run their private businesses. And I think this is not good, because the money the EU actually collects are the money of all the European taxpayers and should protect it as the money of taxpayers. So what we really need is to change the way how the EU is currently utilized, and use it rather for the citizens than for the corporate interests of the richest businessmen who use it now.
Fair enough. I have a question for you about Article 13 and the copyright directive, and what do you see as the next steps in that fight? Also considering the terrorism legislation that's kind of been introduced recently about with filters of terrorism content and stuff, so-called terrorism, right? Because who gets to decide that? But what are your thoughts on that going forward?
Starting from the Article 13, which is actually now called Article 17, as they were renumbered, I think the normal procedure, according to European law, would be to implement it into the national law systems. There is a time limit to do that in 2 years, and during that time, I think the national parliaments have some space to implement it in a clever way. From my personal perspective, I think in the Czech parliament there is a space how to be as possible polite and keen to the service providers to protect our opportunities to behave freely on the internet, as well as make business there. This is what happens in the normal procedure. But of course, I'm not really happy about the current state of the copyright directive. So I would really love to have the opportunity to open it again and maybe remove those 2 articles which are problematic, like the Article 11 and 13 in the old classification. That will be, from my perspective, the best. But of course, the European Parliament has no right to propose law itself. So that means that we have to convince the EU Commission. That will be a really hard job. And but I think that there is still a chance, because the Parliament votes on the confidence for the Commission. That means that you have some tools to convince them or try to persuade them to reopen the law and maybe to remove this problematic part. But this is definitely very much dependent of the future composition of the European Parliament after the election. We really need more liberal parties, more pirates in the European Parliament, so that we can push on the Commission to do that.
Definitely. So are pirate parties within the EU collaborating, working together, going into these elections at all? And do you have plans to, how do you plan to collaborate after the election?
Well, in November's meeting of the European Party Council, we have decided to cooperate, and we coordinate our effort in the negotiations. We do it on the level of the European Party, as well as locally between the national leaders, like the ones from Czech Republic, Germany, Sweden, and others, in order to have a coordinated vision, which will be subsequently transferred into real negotiations and results. We are in contact with some other strong European forces in the parliament, like Greens and Liberals, and we are very much in favor to speak with everyone in order to promote pirate program and push it through.
Very cool. So how do you see the future of the EU in general? Do you think that member states are going to try and leave over the next few years? Do you think that it's going to grow? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think the member states will really leave, because from the practical point of view, leaving is quite painful process, and it creates more problems than it solves. So I would really not recommend it to any member state to think about leaving. I think the better solution is always to solve problems rather than escape from them.
Fair enough. Well, Mikuláš, thank you so much for talking to me today. Best of luck to all of you. Lots of us are going to be watching from afar and cheering you guys on, and wish you all the best.